student and will be representing his language, Rashti or Gilaki. Please. Barari, a linguist, a specialist in language assessment, and Lokman Barbari, a scientist, a chef, a man of all trades, and of course is passionately involved in matters of language and community building in the Kurdish community in Southern California. Would you please come on stage? And Kalia, who would be representing, she happens to be my student currently. We're going to have her as basically a teacher and as a linguist. She would be representing Chamorro. Please. So in the order that I basically call the panelists, I would like basically each panelist to feel free to talk about their personal history when it comes to the language or the languages they speak, and if they could tell us what the status of their particular language is and what is being done primarily to save the language. I think personal experiences and observations could be as enlightening as the most powerful theories. At the end, we would be interested in your feedback and also any questions that you may have for the panelists. So we may want to start with Hooman.
So I will be representing Rashti and Gilaki. I'm fluent in both. First of all, I just wanted to make a distinction of what is the difference. Rasht is a city in Gila. It's the main city, and it has its own dialect, which my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, spoke. I started interacting with the culture and the language at age 5. I would go to her house, and the first thing that really made me engaged in language, I was hearing her talking to my father and her friends in that language. I never heard that language before. Prior to that, I never heard any other language besides Farsi inside of my own household. So I was, time to time, starting to converse, like repeating the words I would hear from her. So she would say, like when we watch a movie, for example, she would say something that would occur in the movie in Rashti, and I would just recite it back at her. So by that, I started learning language and conversing with her in that language. And to me, that was, to me and my family, that was pretty positive, but outside of it was another story. In school, for example, there were a lot of teasing and negativity. If you would say oh, you're not Persian, you're Rashti, you speak another language, that's a minority language. At least that was my case. There were other kids from Rashti also in school that would not speak Rashti, not show that they would speak Rashti from that would appear. And when I moved to the States, I started to lose contact with the main family that spoke that language. So in order to keep that going, I watch music, would go to extended friends of my grandmother who lived, fortunately, in California. We would hang out over the weekend, so keep the language alive. But aside from that, the language it's not really in a good shape because in the main country, very like disencouraged to speak in Gilaki or Rashti. So to me, it's very worrisome and troublesome.
Indeed. Let me just read something that you had written. And I thought this was really put poignantly, that the parental side of the family really embraced the Gilaki culture amongst themselves and kept it vibrant. And it seems that primarily it was your grandmother who was the embodiment of the language, basically survival. With is she still?
It's very funny. I'm taking a lot of time from the panels, but it's a funny and sad story. When I was about 12, we were like going over photos, and she had a photo of her high school mates, and about 19 to 20 of them, and she would say, name them one by one, and she would like say, this is Mrs. Hikmeti, God rest her soul. This is Murray, God rest her soul. She was going one by one till she reached herself. She said, this is me. So out of all of them, Rash, she was the only one who was still alive, but a couple of months ago she had a brain stroke and she's unable to speak anymore. So the language is only amongst me, my dad, and her sons. So that's basically what Dr. Stone said also, but this is like a more true to reality. Languages like mine are slowly but surely are just disappearing from society.
Yeah, so in other words, family is really the foundation for linguistic survival, and if language is to be acquired by children, it would continue. Otherwise, the language gradually disappears. Definitely, you should feel free to comment again. Let me move to our panelists, Lokman Barari and Zozan Barari. Both of them come from the Iraqi Kurdistan, what we call Southern Kurdistan, but they have, both of them, extensive knowledge about different Kurdish dialects and what is happening to the Kurdish language proper. So if I could ask you basically to talk about your particular language variety, where it is spoken, how you learn the language, who speaks the language, the number of the speakers, the role of parents as a whole these days, the role of your parents, and what the current status of the language is, particularly in Turkey, where the language seems to be in a more precarious situation.
Okay, so we're husbands and wives. We don't usually come in pair for panel. This is the first time we appear together. But I'm not a linguist. I'm a scientist by training, and a scientist who turned to a chef. So Susan is the expert. She's the one who did her PhD, incompleted yet, in linguistics. So she has all the technical knowledge on the linguistic ability to give you more a broad description of the Kurdish, or answer the questions that were presented to us. But I can talk a little bit about my own experience, my own exposure to my culture, heritage, and language. And when Dr. Amir asked me for my bio, I just wrote a very short paragraph about myself, and I called myself a lucky Kurd. Lucky because I was born and raised to the age of 12 in Iraqi Kurdistan, and then I moved to Iran and I settled there for several years, lived in Iran, so that's the other part of Kurdistan in Iran. And then after that I came to America, and then in mid-2000s, because of the political situation and the ease on restriction on the Kurdish culture and heritage, I was able to go to Turkish-occupied Kurdistan, and I fell in love with the culture and the heritage and the language and the music, and then I met a lot of influential people in the municipality. So I made that a pilgrimage for myself from 2006 to 2011. Every year I would go, and accompanied by Zuzan, to Kurdish New Year celebration. We immersed ourselves into the culture and the food. That's how really why I came up with a restaurant too. I had a restaurant in Negro Hills for 4 years. Jonathan Gold wrote about us, so we were good. But then, you know, that is 3 parts of Kurdistan. And then, of course, I also made a trip to western part of Kurdistan, Rojava, that you see on the news today, where ISIS has been defeated just in the last few days by the Kurdish freedom fighters, mainly women, really. They don't like that. They don't like to be killed by the women because they think they go to hell. But maybe I'm talking too much, not about linguistics. But that is my exposure to my culture and my heritage. And I'll go back to the point that Dr. Amir made earlier. He is from Sanandaj, and he has a mother tongue of Sorani, which is one of the dialects. Zuzan will speak more about the linguistic aspects. He was not able to study his own language, and there are reasons why. He studied Persian, he studied Arabic and English, French, but he could not study his own mother tongue. There were reasons why. There were underlying reasons why, and there were political reasons, right? So Kurdistan was divided, you know, initially prior to World War I into 2 different wilayats. One was under the Safavid in Iran, and the other 3 parts were Iraq, Syria, and Turkey under the Ottomans. During the Ottomans, the Kurds basically had their own autonomy, and they were exercising the linguistics, heritage, and all that. We had madrasas in northern Kurdistan, which is occupied by Turkey, and they were freely exercising their languages, and the language was a main part of schooling, basically. They were taught in their own mother tongue. But after World War I, nations were built and Kurdistan was divided. That's when the restriction came on the Kurdish language in all 4 parts, especially in Turkey and Syria. That's why you know, I was going back for 6 years because I noticed that the restriction was lifted. It was a period of peace initiative by the government and the Kurds took maximum advantage of it, and they started opening the languages, and the Turks got worried about it. I said, well, we're giving these people 1 inch and they're taking a mile from us. Let's restrict them again. So now there's another restriction on the Kurdish language and culture, but I will stop here because I could go on for long.
Yes, actually that political background is very important. So sometimes, you know, I was telling my sociolinguistic students it takes a revolution for language rights, and we say basically language minorities, and it is a legal term, really, which has negative connotations. So not numerically, because, you know, 25, 30 million in Turkey, or the number of those who speak minority languages in Iran exceeds the number of those basically who speak Persian as a mother tongue. However, Persian has the official and national basically standing to impose its will on speakers of other languages. In Rojava, Western Kurdistan, since 2014, because the Turks, in their battle against ISIS, they took over administrative and educational institutions. As a result, the language is flourishing because the language is offered in the mother tongue, basically, education. So important points, you know, to see the complexity of the Kurdish situation, because the land has been divided between 4 countries, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria. Thank you for that.